The Awakening, the Revised Edition by Lilac Moon. Chapter 24. Family. Two stormtroopers dragged Zeon Termek through the hallways on the Death Star. They entered the conference room where Governor Tarkin and Darth Vader were. Zeon Termek's eyes were wide with fear as Darth Vader stared at him. The troopers made him sit in a chair and left. "Healer Termek, our troops say that you have been involved in some treasonous activities against the Empire," Tarkin said. Treason? No, sir!" Zeon denied. Darth Vader approached the man. "My stormtroopers reported that there were more people with Kenobi and the Princess than there were when they left the Death Star. You will tell me who they were," Vader ordered. "They were no one important," Zeon lied. Vader snarled and grabbed the healer by the throat. "You are lying! Tell me what you were hiding," Vader demanded. Termek choked and spluttered. "Their names were Anakin and Padme Skywalker," the healer choked out. Vader dropped him immediately. "That is impossible. They've been dead for 18 years. "No, I sense no deception. He is not lying," Vader said, as he used the Force to concentrate. Suddenly, Zeon held his head, crying out in agony. Vader probed what information he needed to know. The excruciating pain was too much for the healer, and he passed out. Vader called in his stormtroopers. "Take him to the detention block and schedule him for termination immediately on the charges of treason," Vader ordered. "Yes, sir," one trooper replied. "What did he find?" Tarkin asked. "My Skywalker fell into a coma as a result of his injuries 18 years ago. His wife gave birth to twins and also fell into a coma shortly after. To preserve their bodies and allow them time to heal, the healer tried an experimental technique called carbonite freezing. It seems to have worked. That is where Kenobi went after he left here, to awaken them. It seems that the boy and the princess are those two twin children Skywalker's wife delivered 18 years ago. The others were Skywalker's former Padawan and clone Commander Rex that betrayed us during Order 66. Vader explained. "So your parents are alive." "You must inform the Emperor at once," Tarkin said. "I will handle it," Vader snapped as he stormed out of the conference room. Tarkin leaned back in his chair. Anakin Skywalker was alive. And he knew the Emperor would be none too happy about it. Anakin and Ahsoka sparred furiously the next morning in the base's training room, while Obi-Wan Kenobi watched casually. When he had first saw Ahsoka again, Anakin had downplayed his surprise. Gone was his little Tarugan Padawan, and in her place was a beautiful, fully grown Tarugan woman, who naturally reminded him of Shakti. But he could still see that sparkle in her eyes that had always been there since the day they had met. That sparkle of adventure and thoughtfulness that embodied her. But that sparkle had changed over time, and he could see new things in her eyes, like wisdom and a little sadness. He also noticed that she had traded her outfit she wore as a Padawan for a more conservative green tunic and black pants. The times had changed her and forced her to grow up faster than he had planned on. She had lost far too much in that one day that Palpatine had had the Jedi hunted down and murdered, and it pained Anakin that she had gone through all that without him there. "I'm okay, Master," she assured him with a knowing smile, as they finished and extinguished their blades. "I'm still that transparent to you, am I?" he asked rhetorically. "Of course," she replied. He smiled. "You've grown up so much, and I'm so grateful you watched over Leia all these years for us," he told her. Ahsoka smiled. "Well, she is my baby sister, right?" Ahsoka asked. Anakin smiled. "Yes, she is," And speaking of siblings, your baby brother should be just about done with his morning run. Anakin said, "He's very eager to train, especially with you." Ahsoka replied, "Yeah, well, I don't think he realized that the perimeter around the base is 2 miles long when I told him to run it," Anakin said. Ahsoka giggled. "Still, Rex says he's never seen him this happy or excited." Ahsoka added, "Yeah, well, it's hard to be happy growing up on that sandball. How did you stand it for 18 years, Obi-Wan?" Anakin asked. "Well, it wasn't easy, nor was it our first choice of places to raise Annie. But I had a feeling that it wouldn't be forever. Annie is only 5, so she'll likely not remember much of it when she's grown up." Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Luke. Honestly, Anakin, if we had any other choice, I would have taken Luke somewhere else to live. Obi-Wan assured him. "I know. It's not your fault," Anakin replied. "I'll go see if Luke is back and bring him here," Ahsoka said as she exited. Luke arrived at the base after he had been ordered to run around the perimeter of the base by his father to warm up for training. What he hadn't realized was the perimeter around the base was 2 miles long, and Luke knew he was in for a grueling first day of training. Still, he wasn't having second thoughts about training to be a Jedi, especially with an amazing Jedi like his father. He had seen him and the others take down a dozen clone troopers with swift, stealth precision when they had escaped Polis Massa, and he wanted to learn it all. He found Ahsoka waiting for him at the entrance. "Not a bad time for running without the Force assisting you," Ahsoka told him. "You can use the Force to help you run faster?" Luke asked in surprise. Ahsoka smiled. "Of course. You'll learn that the Force can help you do a great many things, and that, with it, all things are possible," Ahsoka told him. "Are you ready?" Ahsoka asked. Luke nodded. "Training to be a Jedi is no easy feat, Luke. It will be the hardest thing you ever do in your life," Ahsoka warned. Luke nodded. "But I want this. I know it's going to be hard, but I want to be a Jedi, like my father before me," Luke stated. Just as they were about to leave, they noticed Padme at one of the consoles, and she was very agitated, as Rush Clovis bothered her. "But first, since your father isn't here, we should probably go tell that creep where to go. And believe me, he'll be lucky hearing in from us rather than Anakin." Ahsoka asked, "Man, who does that guy think he is? I mean, Mum loves Dad, but he can't seem to take the hint." Luke added, "He is a rich, wealthy senator who isn't used to being told no, or that he can't have something. When it does matter, he is quite persistent, yet careful not to talk to her when your father is around," Ahsoka told him. Luke glared at the former senator. "Well, he's about to meet her son, and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind," Luke said as he approached. "You don't know how good it is to have you back," Mon said. Padme smiled. "Thanks," she replied. "I was a little worried about having to run the rebellion without bail, but now, at least, I have another gifted politician to help me," Mon said, as she left to tend to her own duties. Padme did want to help, but she wasn't sure how much time she would have to be available to devote her time to Mon if she and Annie had another baby. She wondered if Mon might be angry with her when she found out that she and Anakin intended to continue raising a family. But it didn't matter. She wanted to have and raise a baby with Anakin, and nothing was going to stop them from having that this time. She sighed and continued going over the information on the datapad in front of her. So much had happened in the last 18 years, and reading the logs of historical information before her was daunting. "Perhaps you'd let me fill you in on everything that has happened in the last 18 years. It might be better than reading it," Rush said as he approached. She looked up at him sharply. At one time they had been the same age, or rather looked the same age, but he had grown older when she had not. He looked mostly the same though, with more wrinkles and a few grey hairs. He was handsome in his own right, she supposed, but he was nothing compared to Anakin, even in his younger days, and his persistence only made her dislike him more.
if that was even possible after he had so blatantly insulted her beloved. "No, thank you. I'm very satisfied reading it for myself," Padme replied shortly.
"Padme, I want to apologise for my behaviour last night,"
Rush said. "You should. You are very rude, and I don't take kindly to those who so viciously slander my husband."
Padme replied. "I was just in shock at finding out that you were alive, and that the rumours were true."
Rush said. "Annie and I fell in love just before the Clone Wars began, and he is everything to me, just as our children are," Padme stated.
"You could fall in love with him, but not with me?"
Rush asked. Padme looked at him sharply and glared. "Anakin is my soulmate. You and I were never meant to be." Anakin spat.
"You never gave us a chance."
Rush spat back. "Oh, yes, I did. And all you could think about was getting me into your bed. You were perfectly content to let other male senators you associated with think I was your little trophy." Padme spat.
"I am sorry for that. I've told you 1,000,000 times."
Rush hissed. "No. You're sorry that I found out you told them you were sleeping with me," Padme replied.
"That was over 20 years ago. At least to me,"
Rush said. "Do you realise how hard it was for me, being a human female in the Senate, to gain any kind of respect from most of the men? You destroyed what little respect I had with them when you let them think that. You degraded me. But it doesn't matter, because I wasn't in love with you, and I wasn't meant to be with you. I just want you to leave me alone," Padme requested.
Rush grit his teeth angrily. "And you expect me to believe that Skywalker didn't get you in his bed the first chance he got? That he didn't degrade you by making you lower yourself to be with him? He degraded you the moment your dirty little secret about your marriage went public."
Rush spat. Padme gasped. "Anakin loves me, more than you can ever imagine. But I don't expect a cold-hearted, traitorous bastard like you to understand anything about love," Padme spat.
"Traitor? So you're going to play that card again? I never thought you'd be the one to betray me, but I suspect that he was behind your little spying expedition all those years ago."
Rush spat. "No, it was my decision, because there was evidence that you were betraying the Republic, and it turned out to be true." Padme spat back.
"The Republic was dying. Palpatine killed it from the inside out, and yet you supported him at one time. Come to think of it, so did your husband. And yet you call me a traitor?"
Rush challenged. "We didn't know. No one knew until it was too late. Palpatine stole everything from Anakin and I, so don't even for a second imply that we were associated with that Sith monster." Padme spat.
Rush smirked. "You always were even more beautiful when you were angry," he mused.
"Leave me alone," Padme said.
"The base isn't that big. You're bound to run into me from time to time."
Rush spat. "Well then, I guess you better work extra hard at staying away from my mum," Luke interjected as he came to stand beside Padme. She looked at her son with a grateful gaze. Since the moment he had met her, Luke had felt intensely protective of her and Leia both, just as his father was.
"This isn't any of your concern, young man," Rush said dismissively.
"Yeah, I think it is, because she's my mum and I don't like you harassing her, and neither will my father when he finds out. Just stay away from her if you don't want to deal with him," Luke warned.
Rush smirked. "Good day, Padme. Enjoy your reading,"
Rush said as he left. Padme sighed and smiled at her son before giving him a hug. "Thanks, sweetheart," she said. "I don't like that guy." "He'd better leave you alone," Luke replied. Padme smiled. "You are so much like your father. And don't worry, I'm sure your dad will give Rush his own warning later when he finds out about this." Padme replied. "Yeah, I guess I'd better go now. Dad's waiting on me." Luke said. "You'll do great, sweetie. I'll see you tonight for dinner," Padme replied as she kissed his cheek and watched him go with Ahsoka. Later that afternoon, pilots and personnel at the base were gathered around the large situation table. Anakin, Padme, Luke and Leia were near the front, with Rex, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. A hollow image of the Death Star hovered above the table, while one of the generals explained what they had discovered.
We have discovered that if the main reactor is taken out, the entire base will implode. The reactor is centered in the base, and our pilots will have to navigate its central trenches. Our torpedoes must make it in the opening to be successful. If it hits on or around, they will be ineffective, the general explained. How long do we have before we strike? Anakin asked. That is my next piece of rather disappointing news. I'm afraid our intelligence has revealed that the Empire has tracked our location, and we have reason to believe they may be here, in a matter of hours. We will dismiss and allow our team of pilots to prepare. And may I say, on one final note, I believe the general feeling on this mission is much better knowing that it will be led by General Skywalker.
The other general said. Padme smiled at her husband, as all attention turned to him.
I know many of you are going up there with me, may be fearful, since the odds are against us, but I assure you that the success of this mission is very real and very possible. May the Force be with us.
Anakin said.
Man, I don't know. This is suicide. We'll have to put up on incredible speeds.
Biggs said. It'll be just like Beggar's Canyon back home, Luke replied. Anakin chuckled, hearing the boys' conversation.
Yeah, Luke's right. This mission is far from impossible,
Anakin told them as he patted his son's shoulder and stood up to go and talk to Obi-Wan and some of the other leading commanders on the mission.
Who would have thought it, huh? Luke the farm boy is really the son of a Jedi and a senator. You can't just make up that stuff.
Biggs jabbed him in the arm. Yeah, I'm still letting it all sink in. I just met them, but I really feel like we were a family.
Luke replied. I heard you had a little spat with your uncle earlier, Biggs said.
I was really angry at him for lying to me about my parents and my sister. But he and Dad really went at it last night, and Uncle said some pretty hurtful stuff to Dad. I just don't understand why he's like that. Dad wanted him and Aunt Beru to stay here, and maybe come back to my mum's home planet with them. But Uncle Owen refuses, and he's going back to that sand ball as soon as they'll let him leave.
Luke replied. Biggs patted him on the shoulder. But hey, you hated farming anyway. You're where you belong now, Biggs reasoned.
Yeah, you're right,
Biggs replied. So, do you think your sister would go out with a guy like me? Biggs asked with a cheesy grin. Luke punched his shoulder playfully. In your dreams! She's way out of your league, Luke joked. You're probably right, and I think I'd hate to deal with your dad. He'd probably try to run me through with his lightsaber.
Biggs joked. Luke laughed. Dad's pretty protective when it comes to us.
I've learned that so far, Luke replied. Well, looks like they want us to get suited up. You ready for this? Biggs asked.
You bet I am.
After everything the Empire's done to my family, they deserve some payback. Luke replied. Biggs nodded. You be careful out there, farm boy. Biggs called. You too, Biggs.
Luke called back. Anakin came over to Luke and put his hand on his son's shoulder.
I'm having your starfighter fit with an R2 unit right now. I'll be taking R2, so we better go suit up, Anakin said.
Luke nodded as they left.
Obi-Wan walked with them. Are you sure you don't want to join us? Anakin asked, as Ahsoka and Rex followed them. You know I hate flying. I'll just be in the way up there, Obi-Wan replied.
Anakin laughed.
Besides, this will be like target practice for you, Obi-Wan replied.
Well, I don't know about that.
The design is pretty complicated, so they haven't made it easy for us, Anakin replied. Well, with all of you up there, I have no doubt that it will be a victory for us, Obi-Wan replied.
Anakin smiled. Thank you, Master. I'll see you just before takeoff, Anakin replied, as he and Luke went off to their quarters to change and spend a few moments with Padme and Leia. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh, I really like that one.
Oh, by the way, Rush's argument with Padme, that's only the beginning. I've said it before, but that guy's trouble. And I like that Luke's being protective of his mum. One comment I saw on a YouTube video ages ago, or was it a TikTok, can't remember, is that Leia is a daddy's girl and Luke is definitely a mama's boy. And I like that idea as well. Anyway, you guys know the drill.
Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.